recording. I don't know if I can do the stand. I think I'm just going to hold it.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So I think I pretty much gave everybody the rundown, except for maybe you gentlemen, at what's going on here tonight. We have Mr. Barber from Manitoba. He's been a touring musician for the last 2 decades. Everybody in the room, super small event, but not a big heart. We've been fans for a super long time. This is just a wonderful opportunity to get to know the man behind the artist and the artist behind the art. And so we get to converse with this wonderful creature, this mythical creature that's before us tonight. Welcome, Del.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Mythical. No one's ever called me mythical.
Yeah. Well,
scary shit, man.
You live up to it. Just from myself and from everybody else here, thank you so much for coming down. And this has been the biggest treat. Running this business has been full of so many moments where you're just in the shit, you're in the tunnel, and then you have these glorious moments that are whoa, something really cool happened, and this is definitely one of those. So thanks a lot, man.
This is I'm trying to explain it to people, but it's complete. I've never written down the dreams I have and the places I want to go and who the types of people I want to spend time with, but I have a notion of it, and some walking up some of these rivers with someone like you is that's my bucket list, man. That's there's not a lot of things that I would rather picture myself doing or places I'd rather be. So I consider myself I don't really feel like I have any kind of grasp on spirituality, but I do think I do have a sense of what a blessing is, and I feel that way here with you guys, and I mean it. It's not smoke. There's a lot of places I fucking hate. So really. I'm really I'm not just telling everybody that I love where they live, if you get me into the GTA, you just want to get me out of there as soon as possible. But this has just been truly remarkably special. And, as we get into it, as I contemplate retiring from the road potentially, this really makes me question that,
Yeah, that's the goal, buddy. If there was a mission here, that's it. Anyways, Del, it's pretty easy to change your mailing address around here. Yeah, Marilyn can hook you up with a key. No problem. Yeah, we can hit the volume there. Probably just the mains, or
yeah.
Okay. Do a little keep talking. How we doing? I am super stoked. JP, how? Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. That's probably pretty good there. Yeah, it feels good. And I'm a little bit handsome. Sometimes I lean into that, when I'm not sure if I'm going to do a good job, I'm just I'll just take a little swanky posture and yeah, thanks guys. Fucking love you guys.
I spent a lot of time looking at the picture of you shirtless in the frozen water there on your Instagram. I was like, this guy's going to take care of me, he's, for sure.
That's what Baumler thought too, and then we took care of him. We good, JP? All right, thanks, brother. Oh, man. So I had the privilege of meeting you for the first time. We chatted a little bit online, but in Dartmouth this last spring, was it? Jesus, man, time goes pretty quick. It's all a blur, but yeah, last spring we got the privilege of chatting a little bit over. It started out just you saw the picture on my shirt, and dude, that's a cool shirt, nice fish. And then we got talking, and you told me some bonkers story about you being Bob Azumi's son. Can you tell us about that?
Incorrect.
My memory might be a little spotty from that evening. We were celebrating pretty hard.
I never remember talking about Bob Azumi, but I did. He was, I guess, a friend or an acquaintance for a long time. I grew up with my mom's boss ran a guide service, and he guided for channel catfish and walleye on the Red River, and we would take out all these celebrities on the boat. I guided Metallica when I was 13.
Damn.
Not all of them. I don't remember even who it was. I was so nervous at the time. They were cool to me then, and a bunch of bands had Alice Cooper and stuff like that. And so I would put them on like 40-pound catfish, and then they would go play the arena that night or whatever.
Holy
so I started
smokes.
like
Feels familiar.
yeah.
The arena.
Yeah, right. And yeah, so that like led me to be on like a pile of fishing television shows when I was like super young. I don't know if you're familiar with the brand of boats, Lund. It's like okay, so yeah, there you go. So Lund wasn't selling enough boats, and I was what they call a late bloomer, you know, like I couldn't really grow a mustache till I was 25. I still really can't, but I looked younger than I even was, but I was a pretty capable angler. And so Lund got a hold of my boss and said, "Man, do you think we could hire you and Dell to work all the boat shows in the Midwest?" And Lauren's like, "Why do you want Dell?" And like, we got to pull him out of school. It's going to be complicated. And he's like, "Well, we need to make fishing look like a family activity. And if we can make it look like he's your son on TV, I think the people in the relationships in America, i.e. all of the wives, that have the money, that control the money in the relationship, the wives, will maybe let their husbands buy boats because they'll be under the illusion that it's a family activity, right?" So that was like a golden ticket for me, man. It was like seriously like 6 years where I just like drove all over the United States fishing tournaments, working boat shows. Everything was free. Like I hadn't paid for tackle till I started looking too old to be considered someone's kid, you know. And so I would like, it was crazy. I had this golden ticket. I was on the cover of Explore Manitoba like 10 times, and I was on like all these big fishing magazines in the States, and it was all just because this one company was like, "We need somebody to help us sell some boats," you know. So and I wasn't like any better than anybody else. Like we just grew, like all those songs I sang, but when I was a kid, we all just grew up walking rivers and fishing, and we all were just the same level. I just got lucky. I just like got the lottery ticket, you know.
Wicked. Yeah, no stranger to the limelight then, I guess.
Yeah.
All this limelight in here.
Different type of limelight on the water. That's for sure.
You said not paying for tackle. I heard that you found other ways to not pay for tackle later on in life.
Oh yeah, you heard that story last night. I hadn't told that one in a while. That was fun. Yeah, we used to go to garage sales and buy box spring mattresses, and we would torch all the fabric off of them and pull up all the metal, and we would find like the place where like the most fancy boats would troll. And then they would snag up all their like $20 Rapala lures on this thing, and then we'd pull that box spring up, and we would sell them back to them at the boat launch. You know, it was a wicked cottage industry. Yeah, it was like, and we did it on like Lake of the Woods and a bunch of really like wherever any of my friends had cabins, we would just conspicuously like, why are they buying another box spring at the garage sale? You know. And we would like, sometimes we would like make $1,000 at the boat launch, and we'd split it between three of us. And then of course, the police don't like organized crime, and so they cut down on us pretty quick. And it was like I was saying last night, I had this memory of like getting a ride home in a cop car for the first time and trying to explain to my parents what happened. And of course, my dad did not want my mom to hear what happened, so he shrouded her from the news that the cops drove her home because it was my dad's fault entirely, you know. I'd overheard a conversation with him and his best friend about how they did this, and of course, monkey see, monkey do, and you're a boy like that, and I just wanted to impress my dad, you know, and I think he actually was impressed, but he was also pretty embarrassed and worried that mom was going to find out. So,
right on. Yeah, that is a wicked story. I think there's a few places in Newfoundland where we could pull that off. But I probably can't do it now if this ever gets published. I think like maybe 5 or 10 people will see this.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. You can do it.
Yeah. Wicked. So let's keep going with the biography stuff. You mentioned that you've been to like 4 or 5 different post-secondary institutions.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you could talk about how like I can't finish anything I start. I just like kept transferring schools and trying. I was like, in the end, I started out as like a English major, and then kind of like forced myself into the philosophy department, and then just began playing music at all the places I was living in. So I was like, I went to school in Calgary, and I went to school in Chicago, and went to school in Winnipeg at 3 different schools, and just so I could be in different music scenes, and it was like what paved the way for my career, because I was just like playing songs, writing songs for my university friends, and they would come out to shows. And like I had a really good draw in Chicago for a decade because of it, you know, and it like really helped. And it wasn't intentional at the time, but it was like I was just like craving this idea of that I maybe could play music. And so if there was a city that would let me come study there and give me a little bit of scholarship money, I would do that, you know. And so it was pretty fun.
Yeah, right on. You could see that Chicago influence a lot in the earlier stuff, but
yeah, it was a big deal for me. And like I kind of I think I'm gonna get to go back there in August and just to build someone's deck. It's like
wicked.
My old roommate got a quote for like $5,000 for like a simple deck, and I'm like, $5,000 US. He's like, yeah. I'm like, how about you give me 4? He's like, dude, 100%. So it's one of those things. I'm just gonna go down and hang out and go watch some Cubs games and build a deck and then come home rich.
Yeah, wicked. Yeah, that sounds good. We got lots of carpentry projects around here.
Yeah, man, I'm in.
Just saying. What was I gonna say there? So when you go back to Chicago, is there like, do you still have like, I don't know, you must have been gigging through your years there. Do you still have any bit of following down there? Like, would there be folks that if you put up a gig, they'd be like, fuck yeah, Del Barber?
The problem with it, and you see bands that are really big in university crowds, and I wasn't big there, but their crowd ends up shrinking inevitably, right? Because like that community, as you guys know, it sort of like diffuses.
Disseminate quickly.
Yeah, and it like spreads over a large, like a lot of people go home.
Yeah.
They like go to school in the big city and go home, or find a different home, or like they weren't actually people who liked going out. They just did, or they didn't like music really, and they don't support live music anymore, but they did in their college years, and that's pretty common. And so if your crowd is only that, like if it's homogenous in those age groups, it's really not sustainable.
Okay.
But so no, my Chicago crowd is not sustainable. I bet you I can draw 75 there, maybe 100, and it was like 600 or something at its peak. So yeah, it's like pretty well petered out, but it's whatever. Like I won't even try to play a show when I go down there this time.
Right on. Deck building seems to be more lucrative anyways.
Much.
Yeah. Maybe I'll ask about music. What's significant about Garbage Day in Chicago?
It's so noisy, and if you grew up in any sort of peaceful Canadian context, like Garbage Day is just like a nightmare. Like, and I used to like, all my first jobs were on farms, and I read a lot about farming, and I'm like pretty in touch with the agricultural landscape in Manitoba, and so the smell of diesel is like romantic in a way until I lived in Chicago, because it's just like mixed with like some of the worst smelling garbage you've ever seen, you know. And it was also like a particular day where I like had, you know, that song you're mentioning is like a particular day where I like had maybe the first real breakup of my life, like as an adult.
Yeah.
Where it was like heavy and like heartbreak, and like, you know how that you can like transport yourself back through smells.
Yeah.
And so like the smell of diesel and garbage is like brings me back to her face.
Wicked. That's friggin' wicked. There's something so special about the way that like you make something very specific that like only you, that's your experience, you know. Garbage Day, North Side Chicago, Dark Smoke Diesel. Miles and Years is the song we're talking about for folks who might not be aware. There's something like that super specific way of telling the story. It's your experience, and yet that song seems to be like one that hits. Like anytime I show people your music or I'm listening to your music with people, like Miles and Years is one that really hits. And it's just beautiful when you can take your experience, and yet it's very specific events, but the feeling and the impression is very universal. It's a beautiful thing you do there.
I feel like I made a mistake with that song. Like I quit playing it altogether because I felt like it was so long. Like it's 3 verses long. It's like something a 20-year-old white dude writes who's like really thinks they're self-important. It's like my experience has got to be universally applicable. Like it's like, you know, and so that type of ego I was just trying to separate myself from, and like really trying to tell other people's stories. And that was like one where I like spoke from my own perspective, and I just found there's a lot of danger there. It's a slippery slope into thinking your experience means more than someone else's.
Absolutely.
When you get on stage and you like talk about your life, it's like, why should anyone give a fuck? Like, so I'm not, you know, but I start thinking about that song. I'm like, maybe everybody wants me to play it, but I haven't played it in a decade, and I can barely remember it because there's so many words, you know, and it's so long. It's like you have to be playing it all the time to nail it.
I can recite it for you.
And I'll play it. I'll try to play it tomorrow night. You know, I'll try to rehearse it and play it tomorrow night because like that's one of the songs where I was, you can like the story that I tell before it was like the thing that taught me how to tell stories, and so it's like it has enough self-deprecation, and it takes the piss out of me before you can sort of sing a breakup song, and that juxtaposition makes it work. So
it's too bad you feel that way, but I understand that. Like, you know, I dabbled in creativity. I was writing and doing really, really minor publications, and I found that the stories and the poems that I was writing ended up kind of becoming a script for me the way to live my life, and almost like this projection of the way that we're living it. And then that kind of made me scared that I was like inflating my self-importance, and I wanted it. It's just safe. It is like, it feels safer to be less personal. But from a fan's perspective, that's like, there's a real honesty there. There's a real honesty when you're singing about somebody else and celebrating another person's story. But when you're celebrating your own, I think that you really unlock something that's there's just this genuine, universal thing that translates, even though it's your story. It really hits.
I really appreciate that. Like, I want everyone to tell their stories, and because I have ears for them, and so like, I think you're right, and I just, like, you know, when you're like in any sort of process or like lifestyle, you like, you know, you try on a different jacket and look at yourself in the mirror and be like, maybe this works. Like, I think a lot about that with clothes or like vocation or whatever, and I think writing's no different. To get good at it, you kind of got to wear different coats, and you got to try to pursue that thing and see where it goes, and sort of allow yourself the ability to stop doing something if it rubbed you the wrong way, and then feel free to go back to it.
Sure.
You know, don't write it off.
Yeah.
So I think you're totally right.
That's like when I came back from Jamaica, I used to wear a fedora and beads.
Right.
And then I got off the plane in Deer Lake, and I was like, what the fuck? Jesus.
Did you ever have
right?
Did you ever wear those white seashells?
No.
I did.
I didn't have the frosted tips. The two tank top white beater shirts. So there'd be like a white and a black one on top. A B44 straight out of the music video.
And I had.
You know what I'm talking about?
Remember, I had my eyebrow pierced, and then I got ripped out in a hockey fight, and I was like, "Okay, maybe this isn't me." You know. And, but it's the irony.
Form follows function.
The great irony is that we're like, I'm like, you know, that despite the fact that what I've just told everybody is that I'm like trying to divorce myself over the last 15 years of writing, since I wrote Miles and Years, with like self-importance. I'm on stage with you, and you're asking me questions about my song. Like, it's like, and I'm like cool with it.
Yeah,
that's like way more self-important. That's like way worse.
No,
but I mean?
I think we have to move away from it being negative to feel, to talk about yourself, or to feel like what you have to offer is important. I mean, that what you have to offer is important, and what everybody has to offer is important, and it's okay to celebrate your own importance sometimes, as long as it's not at the expense of somebody else's. And I don't think that's the case, you know. Like, look at these fucks out there. They showed up.
Yeah, but
they didn't show up to see me.
But you guys know what I mean. When you have this like societal cry to hear voices that have been silenced for a long time, and it's like you're the person that they're saying has already had their turn. You know,
right?
It's hard not to be like, yeah, there's something to that, and to just not respond to that and just keep forging ahead seems like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could be that guy.
That's very noble. That's very noble, and yeah, right on.
I didn't eat enough beans.
I didn't eat enough beans. Yeah. Oh, geez, I can go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, that's a really good point. Use that privilege. So, like, yeah, it's absolutely super important, this transition that's happened in the last like decade, about recognizing all of the voices that have been suppressed in our society that are super important and really matter. But again, I think that a rising tide lifts all boats, and that, you know, if you have a valid point, if you have a valid, I don't know, I don't want to call it a product to offer. I'm running out of words.
It is a product.
There. Sure, it's a product, but it's also a product and a service. But life lesson.
It's not like, I mean, as you know, like on every record since then, like there are songs from my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't just quit.
Absolutely.
I can't help it. No, but those songs are just way less work. They just write themselves, you know, stream of consciousness type thing. And that's just like a moment that gets captured, and I can justify that. I like it. And I can edit them a little bit, but like trying to tell other people's stories and empathize with them and like use them to like try to write parables is like, I think it's way harder.
For sure.
I think, I'm not saying that I've succeeded at that, But I think that there's so much more potential to like describe the world without having to be the one that you know, like has to own the feeling of the place, you know, and just to try and imagine what it's like to be somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also it's like I've been criticized for it. And I think the criticism is valid. Like it's patronizing. Like ultimately what I'm doing when I think my art is at its best, my favorite songs, the ones that I've written, I am patronizing people, hopefully positively, you know, but like I want to be a positive patronizer, like for sure. Like I want to like write that down. I want them to know, I don't want them to think that I've tried to be, you know, I'm not afraid to like turn their story into a universal one. I'm not just trying to get the facts down. This isn't like historical drama. This is like historical fiction or like something like that where you just like the reason why the story's good is why it's worth telling, not them. In the same way that you want to like divorce yourself from the idea that like my feelings are more important than yours or something.
I find it so fascinating that you're so compelled to that vocation of telling those stories. You know, like not everybody is. Like a lot of people celebrate stories. A lot of people are surrounded by them and just kind of they wash off them like water on rocks. But it seems like you've been very attached to them. Like it's obviously it's your career is like telling these stories, yours and others. And I think that's very fascinating. It's like a really cool quality.
Yeah, I think a lot about like good stories, and I think a lot about good storytellers, and I'm really interested in both, and like trying to figure out like who those storytellers are and why people want to listen to them. Mm-hmm. What makes that person compelling in society at that particular time. You know?
One of the questions I always pose to my students is like, what's the most powerful weapon humans have? And it's like, or not weapon, or most powerful tool that humans have. I just kind of pose it openly in a class, like usually in an English class, and just see what they come up with. Like, what's the most powerful tool that people have? And the kids usually come up with stuff like, oh, we have nuclear bombs, we have AI. And then I always look, it always comes down to the decision to pull the trigger on those nuclear bombs or what you do with that AI comes down to the stories we tell ourselves. Like the most powerful tool that we have is the stories. It's the world we live in. Like we have 5 senses and we have consciousness, and this consciousness creates narratives, and that's how we see the world. And it's a beautiful thing that there's human beings like yourself that create those stories and create those portraits in the world, you know?
And that's why I like places like this so much, is that, you know, I don't know, it's hard to describe them without being a dick, but like it's an actual place. Like, and I mean that as a compliment. I know it sounds like nothing, but if you drive through America now, most of it is the same. It's just homogenous, like everywhere. You can get exactly the same thing 24 hours a day, and it's boring. You know, it's like what I'm doing more than like trying to tell those people's stories is like describe where they are and how that landscape influences them. It's like, it's all about place for me. It's all about like trying to figure that out and trying to like see them as inseparable from that landscape. And I'm sorry, but like if it was all about suburban United States, the songs would be just too sad.
There's a lot of those songs out there, and they're killing it.
It's true. I think that's because they're just a little boppier than my stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
Place, hookier.
Man, I think I mentioned earlier this week is that I have this belief that places are as important to us as the people who occupy our lives. The places we occupy, we don't take it like, you know, your childhood home that you grew up in. When your family event inevitably sells that place or whatever happens, it's like you lost a friend. You know, a lot of your music tends to be like really place oriented. You travel around a whole lot. I always get like this sense of the people in your stories have this deep sense of belonging to place. I want to ask you on a personal level, like, do you feel like you have a stable sense of belonging in your life, or do you feel like in all these places and when you create these stories, do you get pulled apart and end up with this belonging dysphoria? Like, I don't know. Like, how does that sit with you?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what I'm asking.
It's a great question. I do. I think. Yeah, when I left Chicago, it dawned on me that I was never going to live anywhere but Manitoba ever again.
That's wonderful.
It was impossible for me to picture that, and I was just so proud of it. And so many people it's nothing. Like, it's a nothing province. You know, it's sort of featureless to a lot of people, and it just takes a pretty keen eye to like get into the subtleties of places, and I love that it's a place people fly over. It makes me even more proud of it.
Hell yeah.
And it makes me like having a bigger tax base might allow my truck not to break every week on the roads or something. That might be the only thing I would like about it. But
Preaching to the choir.
But otherwise, like, you know, I'm just like, you know, passionately digging into that. And but who knows, man? Like, you meet the right group of people and you feel like you could belong somewhere else. Like, it happens. And we were talking in the truck the other day. It was like, oftentimes I feel like I'm cheating on my home, like falling in love with, like, I remember I was in Copenhagen last summer for a show and I just like walked the city by myself for like 10 hours and I was just like madly in love with it. I was like sexually attracted to it. Like, I felt like it was like a relationship that was like impossible for me to ignore. Like, I knew I would never live there, but I felt like I was cheating on my home. You know,
I know that. I know the feeling you're describing.
And I liked that. I liked the little bit of guilt I got out of it.
Yeah.
You know? And it was like it was like a check valve.
For me, it's painful. It's like I feel pulled apart. I feel like, man, I should have grown up here. Like, the first time I went to Stephenville, I tell Steven this all the time. The first time I pulled into Stephenville, it was like my ears unpopped. Like, it was like I was living with like popped ears all my life, and then it's like they just unpopped. All the pressure was relieved. And I was driving through, and it reminded me so much of my hometown, but it was Newfoundland. Like, I grew up in Southern Ontario. My family's like moved because there's no industry here. So I grew up in this small farm town as this like Newfie kid, and then when I moved back to Newfoundland, I was like the mainlander. But when I got to Stephenville, it was like it just reminded me so much of home, and then I felt like, fuck, this is where I was supposed to grow up, and then it just hurt. Like, it was just like, but no, it's not. Like, I grew up, I love the people I grew up with, I love the place I grew up, I love the place I live now, I love my family home, but like there was this sense of like, but I really missed out on Stephenville. And now a lot of people might laugh about that because Stephenville has an interesting reputation in this province. But, you know, fuck them. They've never been to Denny's Bakery or Domino's Pizza.
I remember who we were talking to. No, it was Steven's mom, right? Where did she grow up? Corner Brook, yeah. And she was like, was it her that was saying she couldn't claim to be from Stephenville even though she's been there for 38 years? Yeah. That's like that's a very similar thing that happens in Manitoba.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, there's a lot of places it doesn't happen in Calgary. Like, if you meet someone in Calgary who's been there for more than 2 generations, it's like, whoa. You're like, what was it like? You know what I mean? Yeah. Because it was like a really cool frontier town, and it's like it's so full of so many people from all over the place, and that's its identity. But like places without like massive economic footprints are able to like retain their identity in some way, and I think it's worth celebrating. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
But
shall we talk? I kind of want to revert a little bit to Miles and Years. I have just a personal indulgence question.
That's great.
Huge Towns Van Zandt fan.
Yeah.
You know, Heart-Worn Highways. It's amazing how you like that song. For those of you guys who haven't heard it, or if those of you have maybe haven't like analyzed it, it's about like you kind of personify the feelings that you go through, and they're playing a poker game together, and it's beautiful. But then there's Lefty. Why Lefty? Why is Lefty in that? Am I? If I'm reaching too far back, you know, we could skip. But you know, he's a little bit tired. He's a little bit upset.
I'm really afraid to be honest with you about it.
I have high expectations.
I was thinking.
Is there a spotlight in here we could put up?
I'll tell you. I was thinking of 2 specific things when I wrote it, and I remember writing it. And there's not a lot of songs I actually remember. Most of my best songs, I'm like, how did that happen? Like, I'm so divorced with the moment of doing it. That was like a slight reference to masturbation. I'm left-handed.
Oh my God! I thought it was Poncho and Lefty from Towns Van Zandt ringing in my ear. I was like, Lefty's the one the Federale's got. Holy shit, that changes everything. He's a little bit tired. He's a little bit upset. All right, I get it now.
But it's also like, yeah, like I love Poncho and Lefty. And and Lefty was always this character to me that kind of was the most compelling part of the song, and I think that like whole part of that story is sort of not you don't. There's not even a way to imagine what happened to him.
Yeah, it's a bizarre song. Have you ever seen the part like Towns Van Zandt explains like how he wrote that song? He's like, I wrote this song about two cowboys I had a dream about 2 weeks after I wrote the song. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? Right on. But that's Towns.
Yeah. Major hit too. It's
yeah.
Like his biggest song, and it's like still getting covered. And our best joke at home is when we have a little bit too much to drink and you're getting a ride home from someone who hasn't, and there's a guitar in the back. Be like, dude, I wrote this song, man. I gotta show you it before you drop me off. And then you play Poncho and Lefty for him. And they're just like, just for the eye roll. You know?
Yeah. Oh man, that's wicked. Yeah. So there's a character, you have such interesting characters in a lot of your music, and there's one particular one that I think we all have met or we all have been at some point. Can you tell us a little bit about the character from 62 Richmond?
Should I just play you the song and then talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
I got a real croaky voice today. I've been living this I'm just pushing that down. I think I'm going to try to do that. Does that work? Loud boy. What's that?
I'm friends responsible for that croaky voice.
Yeah, you are. I don't know. I'm still going. I got a mic right here. That's fine. When it was really popular when I was 21, everyone was reading Kerouac and taking themselves very seriously, you know, like thinking that it was possible without much work to make something big happen or change something. And I think it's like it was a really important time in my life. And I remember like having this like really low period. And I remember like I went to the bar by myself for the first time, like real shitty bar in Winnipeg. And I remember feeling really emotional, and I'm like pretty easy to tears, and sitting at the bar, and I was like, tears were coming down my cheeks. And this man just came over and sat down next to me, and he said, "The name's Jungle Jim." And I thought I had these the problems on my shoulders I thought were so big, and then Jim just started talking. He's like the classic tall tale teller, the guy that's done everything, been with everyone, traveled the world, knew everything, and he just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked all night long. Didn't let me get a word in edgewise. And by the time he was done talking, I had forgotten all about my problems because I was just so sick of hearing his voice. You know.
Yeah, man, I met that guy before.
Yeah, he's
probably been that guy before.
Yeah, and I have too, and that's exactly the point, right? It's this ubiquitous character that you, in the right context, it's he knows quite a bit about the world, or she knows quite a bit the world, or they know quite a bit about the world, but in the end, they don't really want to listen.
Yeah.
And I remember, just leaving that bar feeling like, man, I'm going to change. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to finish my degree. I'm going to go into law. I'm going to become something, and that guy inspired me to change, And I remember that feeling being 20 and making a change, because it's a lot easier to make then. And just having this, the next morning, even though I was hungover, I was so full of hope. It was so much hope. It was so much hope that I was going to go and tell my parents that I'm going to do something different. I was working a shitty job. I'd already dropped out of one university, and it was time. And Jungle Jim was the reason for that, And so I get on this bus. It's the 62 Richmond. I had this really shitty place in the real rough neighborhood in Winnipeg, and the 62 Richmond was the bus that would take me out of the city of Winnipeg to my parents' place in St. Norbert. I would have to get off the bus and then walk half an hour, and then I'd be at their house. And so I'm waiting for the bus at this place called Confusion Corner in Winnipeg, which is like the worst designed traffic corridor in the country. It's like it's like London. It's like an intersection of like eight major roads, and it's like there's no way to get around it. And in rush hour, it's a nightmare. And so there I was in the morning, waiting for the 62 Richmond, the bus I would always take to go home. I get on the bus, and who is on the same bus as fucking Jungle Jim, man? And he sees me, and he talks the whole way to St. Norbert. There's no way he's even going to St. Norbert. And by the time I got home, I had lost all hope. I'd forgotten all about it. Yeah, so the idea is I wrote this hoping I wouldn't become him, and then now I end up like a storyteller for a living, and I've pretty well become him, and just living with that irony. He walked too many highways, jumped too many trains, he hooked too many walleye, he always knew the way, and he swam too many oceans, saved too many lives, he always told the truth. He could always spot the lie, and he made too many dollars. His words were always making sense, and he dreamed the biggest dreams, leapt the highest fence, and he wrote too many songs, read too many books, and he loved too many women, stole too many looks. Was exposed at a bus stop. Confusion's got him cornered, waiting to be saved by the revolution. But all that comes is 62 Richmond. Danced all night on Fridays, put back 50 shots, but he never felt that whiskey. His mind held the clearest thoughts. He knew the best place for breakfast, where to find the cheapest lunch. He could make a picture-perfect pancake, he could brew a perfect punch. He wasn't much of a boxer, but he never lost a fight. He was stronger than a horse, faster than the light. He knew all the best cities and places to steer clear. He held his head high through every door, never felt an ounce of fear. And the morning light was exposed at a bus stop. Confusion's got him cornered, waiting to be saved by the for 30 hours, hold his breath for days. He could build a house out of chipboard that would never waste away. And he fought in every great war, never lost his pride. He did what he had to do just to keep up his stride. He gave away his life savings, saved his best for last. He knew the right time to make a move, just when he should pass. In every great war. That's all
Great
right.
time to start recording,
Yeah.
Lo.
That's all right. It's happened before. See, that's what happens when you're 20 and you write 3 verses in every song. In Thanks for letting me play that one. I'll try.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Wow, wicked. I love the whole like brew the perfect punch and then go into the boxer. You know.
Yeah, it's just like I was obsessed.
There's a lot of good chops, poetry chops in there.
I was obsessed with wordplay back then, and like
yeah, that's good.
Part of it was, again, it was like one of the things that I decided not to do was like poetic masturbation like that. Like when I sing that, I love it because I feel like it's showing off cleverness. But I was like, if I'm trying to get to the meat of something, making people know that I'm clever is not the point. And so like I stopped doing that for a long time.
You're very, very self-conscious. You're keeping yourself on these rails.
I just like I want to find a direction and try it, and then be like I said, be happy to go back, but like see it through and see if it makes sense. And like I'm always a concept first person. I'm like a dreamer. So like I'll picture the loaf of bread and I want to make and then figure it out. I'm not gonna like be satisfied until I get that ideal thing, or like at least find myself in the pursuit of it, you know, and have an ideal. It's like that's the coolest part. So that's why I end up, you know, doing what I do, and like that's what keeps the fire burning for me.
Right on. What's it like? What's your process for like going through that? Like how much? A lot of like I don't know. In the literary world, I know a lot of folks like have to dedicate a schedule. Like it can't be chaotic. Like there's a lot of writers that start off like with the chaos and they write through the chaos, but they don't have a lot of longevity until they get the discipline. Like, you know, if you just write like going on a bender and then coming back and then writing about it, you don't see longevity out of that. But then there's folks who really get somewhere, and it's usually like they have a set time. Usually in the morning they write X amount of things and then they edit later, kind of thing. Like what's your process? Is it pretty organic or?
No. It was. This is like spot on. My exact lifestyle is that whenever something happens that I want to write about, I just do it. Like I don't ignore it. But
that's key too, striking the hammer.
Exactly. But then also it's like when I'm writing well, I'm writing every day, and I'm like carving out the time, and like telling myself I have to finish stuff, and for better or worse, you know, letting go of the possibility that it could be great and being satisfied with having something to throw away. And not like throwing them away permanently, but going back and attending to them later, you know. And then usually you get a sense of what you're writing about in general, like what the themes are and like basically who you are through that. And then you know that you're not lying to people. Like I get really annoyed with songwriters who say things they don't mean, and it's like, yeah, I'm judging them for sure. And like, but I think that like sincerity is the only currency I have. And
cheers to that.
And I think like when people aren't liars, like, especially in like this like modern movement of country music right now, it's like exploded, like alternative country. There's a lot of people who say they're someone they're not and write about people they don't know, and it's clearly obvious when you like, you know, and like it's easy to make mistakes in songs, but like I'm not going to bring up any of the examples of the negatives because I think it's not really worth any air, but like look at someone like Lightfoot. When new information comes out about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, he changes the lyrics to the song. It's like, yeah, because he doesn't want to get it wrong, you know.
Yeah,
it's like that. The spirit of that is like that's what good writers have always done.
Yeah, and
like that's what their editors help with, like making sure that the facts are there. Like if you're talking about the natural world, that you get it right. Like there was a popular song in Manitoba a while back, and the opening line was, "The hummingbirds are singing softly in the trees," and I was so pissed. I was like, hummingbirds don't fucking sing, man.
They hum. Come on.
They don't have a song. Like it's not a songbird. It's like or like, you know, like yeah, just anything with like birds or natural things or like anything about the world that isn't right drives me absolutely bonkers. And it's the same with like being honest about where you're at and like not falling to the whims of what's cool to write about.
I'm sorry, I'm throwing a few curveballs here, but can you tell us about where you were at when you had a pumpernickel pillow and a bed made of beer cans? Stray Dogs was awesome, by the way. That album kind of came out of left field for me. I kind of didn't see it coming, then it hit, and I was like, "Whoa!" You took me all the way down the country road. Like
I was telling you about my fishing buddy Fritz, and he is the most excited person for me right now because he spent 2 summers working in Newfoundland and caught a lot of salmon, and that song is about him essentially. Sleeping in the back of my pickup truck. On a brook trout trip, the loneliest man I had ever met, just like went through the worst breakup of his life, and I was just trying to picture myself in his shoes, and we both didn't have pillows, and I had like 4 loaves of pumpernickel I had made, and I'm too hard, I'm too cowboy to use a pillow, you know, and he's just like, I'll take both pumpernickel loaves, and then. I swear for the rest of the trip, I was like, I could taste his head on the bread.
Chewing on mosquitoes and jerky like a bad man. Wicked. Oh, man. So
I can't even think about what song that is.
That's Fishing and Wishing, isn't it?
In a bed made of
Isn't
beer
it?
Cans. Yeah, fishing and wishing.
Yeah, that's it. I think I got that right. What? Oh yeah,
quarter mouse.
Yeah, so I think I told you
my
this.
favorite line, man.
Dude, I know. So that's the line that fucked me up over that song. I was like I said, like every time you hear an album, you're like so stoked about an album, and then like you get the hits, and you're like, oh yeah, like that song is it. And then there's like you listen to the whole thing. I'm an album guy. I can't skip a track, no matter what. And I'll just keep the same album on repeat for weeks or months. With Almanac, I think I made it 0.005 top listener on Spotify. Sorry to say that to you. On 2 separate accounts. So make that 0.0025 if you. I don't know
It's
what
really
the math
easy
is,
when
but
only like 40 people listen to it.
yeah.
So
Right on. Oh, I thought I accomplished something. But anyway, so Jared hit, and I was like, man, what is going on in this song? Like, what is like mouth the size of a quarter? It always just I was like, see this big oafy kind of character that I just could not really vibe with, and it was always in my head. So when I knew the song was coming, I was like, okay, here we go. Here comes Jared. And then, sorry.
No, I love it.
But I would never skip it. And then eventually I realized that song was in my head like all the time. I was like thinking about it. And then I was anticipating it, so I started looking forward to it. And then it was like, became my favorite song on the album. But when I saw you in Dartmouth, I went to take a piss when you were telling me about it. So,
yeah. So,
when you're telling me, not telling the crowd about it, you can
yeah.
tell. It's all about me. It's just you know.
I'm really trying to like flex the muscle of the sort of like my favorite literary convention, at least in the last 5 years, is like the line between comedy and tragedy, like the saddle that separates those two things is like walking right on top of it, and that's like my favorite thing to do. And like guys like John Prine do it so well, and like that he's like what I think probably like the songwriter that's influenced me more than anybody. And that song was like I tried to write about Jared a lot, and it always came across as being mopey and sad because it was a pretty dark story. And then finally I just like restarted somehow. I had put enough time between me and him or something that I could actually write about it. And so the guy is like still locked up in Stony Mountain Penitentiary in just outside of Winnipeg. And my mom ran a drug rehab center, and I basically grew up there. Like we spent all our Christmases there, and like I basically was raised by like criminals, you know, and fishermen, yeah, and
Criminals and liars.
and so like my first jobs were there, and my first real job there was like the first job I guess I just like painted buildings and did maintenance. I was like 13, and I had to apply for a permit to get the job because I was underage, and then I got a job there at like a full-time job there at 19, right at the same time I wrote 62 Richmond, right at that low point when I like dropped out of school. Maybe I was 20, I don't remember, but something like that. And my job was essentially to go to the remand center in Winnipeg, pick these guys up. I was the first person they got to see, and they got released from jail, and then I would drive them to the drug rehab center, and I just hear their stories, you know. And then I kind of graduated from just picking up guys to taking them to their court dates. And so, in the first week of that job, I was taking this guy to his second-degree murder trial, And sorry, Jared is not his name. I change everybody's name, so I always get confused who I'm talking about because I'm thinking of a guy named Bill. But
we don't need a name. Oh. I'll just beep that out. And I'll probably beep out where he's stationed right now, probably for
whatever. It doesn't
anonymity.
Matter. Anyway,
for all the folks at home,
it was a situation where, it was Bill writing about Jared, and Bill was writing about the guy that he shot, and there's also it was a pushback against romanticizing crime in country music. I kind of wanted to resist the idea of the outlaw nature of country being cool. I like the sound of outlaw, and outlaw in the country music scene didn't mean crime. Now it sort of does, but it just meant different from pop country. But anyway, no need to get into the boring history of that. But yeah, so it was a guy it was a week and a half of trial, and by the end of day 3, he had me convinced he was innocent, because and he had me buying him lunch every day, and just fully conned me into just taking care of him, and he was just so sweet and so kind, and he just was, he just knew. He spotted a sucker, and
I've been the sucker.
Yeah, I'll be him again. And just found myself just wanting him to be let out, just feeling like I had a friend, and of course, nobody saw it the way I saw it. It's there wasn't even a hesitation. There wasn't even more than an hour of deliberation. It was just no, you're going to jail. You did it. And so I was just trying to picture myself in his shoes, and give him a little bit more, give the person who perpetrated the crime, a little bit of air, without taking it too seriously or without making it sound dark. And it's trying to make fun of him at the same time a little bit.
That song is a masterpiece of walking the line between comedy and solemnity. There's this podcaster I follow a lot, and one of the recent discussions was how he tries to validate comedy in art, and how when art to be recognized has to be solemn all the time. It's really annoying. It's it doesn't have to hurt.
It's bullshit.
Joy and humor is a very valid
it's hard
emotion.
It's hard for it's hard for anyone to take comedy seriously, in terms of awards nominations or anything like that. It's not a real category for people.
I can think of I don't know. John Prine did it. He made it. Tenacious D, they're fucking hilarious, but they never got taken seriously, even though they were some of the most influential musicians of my life.
I think it shows up in hip hop too, a little bit, bit of comedy, and I love it.
Hip hop gets away with it. I think hip hop does it good. I think they can kind of get away with it. Yeah. System of a Down kind of had that going on. They have some really funny stuff. Mm-hmm. Terracotta Pie. Yeah, right. It's just funny that if for music to go pop, it has to be, I don't know, just really solemn or light, and just really no shallow. Yeah, no substance. I don't know. It's too bad. But after the world sees this podcast, they'll understand. Is this a podcast? Did I call it that? I don't know.
This is the Rob Talk Show, man.
This is the Robcast.
With chairs like
all
this,
day, every
man,
day, baby.
This is more of a
These
talk show.
Fucking chairs, man. They're serving the purpose. Since we got this place, when we got on this place, I'm a bit of a hoarder. It's in my family. But when we got, oh my God, so when we got this place, there wasn't a square inch of pine. It was covered in shit, plastic cowboys, fucking dogs playing poker and pool, which I'm still pissed aren't up on the wall. Yeah, you got a sailboat picture. That was probably 12 square feet. Old Rob was on the wall. There's so much shit that was here. Where was I going with this? Hoarder. The chairs. Thanks, guys. So these chairs almost didn't make the cut. And I was like, nah, they're gonna find a space. We'll put them in the entrance. Someone will sit in them. I don't know. They're chairs. I like them, but they never had a place in the restaurant or at when we had big nights. People are dancing, not sitting down. But fuck yeah, here they are. And Poppy, was this Lorraine? Okay, she's the brains. She's the brains and the brawn most of the time. Thanks for that. Good chairs. How are we doing for time? Oh, fuck, it's 10 o'clock. Killing it. Okay, so maybe I can just ask about one more song story. There's like a song, like I mentioned, Miles and Years being one that hits really hard with folks, but like there's another song that anytime it plays, like it's kind of changes the tone in the room. I could see it. It's a song you can see in people's eyes. I don't know, and it's even though it's a very specific and probably very personal story. It's very personal. I mean, like in my life, there's a very specific situation that's this story finally put words to, and then I was able to like process the feelings about that experience because of the words in the song.
Okay.
And but it has nothing to do with my situation specifically, but like the scenario is super good. Like the verse that like I don't know always hits, and then geez, I haven't slept in 4 days, and I'm surrounded by all my best friends, so I'm a little bit emotionally volatile. I'm gonna get through this one without having needed a tissue or something. Anyways, so it's brother, do you remember that warm September morning? You're shooting cans with Dad's 22 without a worry or a warning.
Yeah, that'll make me cry too.
Pulled the trigger down, dropped that deer. You looked at me with tears in your eyes.
I'll play it for you.
And I never in a million years thought you'd make that shot, and I picture you tonight with your eyes still on something so far off. Wherever you are, I hope you're being careful about the things you want. Like, fuck me, man.
Yeah, thanks.
That's,
Thank you.
I don't know. Yeah. That's what started it. Thanks, buddy. Whew. Right here.
Yeah, that's
Need one?
that's one of those songs where I feel like makes me, I don't know if like God's the right word, but like I don't think I wrote it. I feel like it was just like, no, honestly, I feel like it was just like, here you go, you can have this. Now, can you do something with it? Like, I feel like I just was like, I was like the conduit or something. Like, I feel like I don't have any recollection of writing it.
That's how the master strokes are described. You ask any like the master, right? Like when they talk about art, like Michelangelo, they're like, I just channeled it.
But when I sing that, like,
master strokes.
that is the easiest song to believe, like every night.
Yeah.
That verse in particular is like exactly the nut of what I try to say. Like my whole, if you want to call it a career, it's like all of my work is like sort of about that thing. And it's like all I've been doing is trying to boil it down to that. And it's like keep trying to tell that story and over and over again. And it's like, it sums it all up for me. It's like the biggest moment of like, it's like when a lot of braids of a river come into one thing, you know, it's like, that's it. So, and I'm like it makes me so grateful for like all of the time I've spent sleeping on floors and like just pursuing this, that like somebody paid attention to that, you know, like that you guys have, that's even like something you've circled in your brain. Like that's like the greatest compliment for me, you know. It's like it means that like I did something right. Yeah, no, but honestly, like it's so fucking cool.
You threw out some good metaphors there. You know, like you said all your music kind of circles that encapsulate that. I'm not going to say that feeling or that, you know, the essence of whatever that is. But all art does that. You know, that's what's art. Art is failure. There's this thing, and you shoot towards it. And you never hit it. But, you know, you create a new path towards that thing. And like the river braids, like it's really fun to fish all those different streams, you know. And they're always going to be changing. There's always going to be new opportunities and new meaningful ways to recreate or reach for that.
Yeah, no, like, and also it was like, it is very personal too. Like that is like supposed to be a picture of like the prodigal son in the prairies. And it is, I'm trying to retell that story through like the lens of what it means to be from the prairies. And in particular, like my dad's brother, who I never met, who's still gone, somewhere in Alaska, never talked to him. Just the idea of like, I don't know, the prodigal son's such a cool story, but it's always, the focus is always on the bad brother coming home. Like it's always about the guy who gets redemption. It's never about the guy who stays there and misses the brother.
River runs through it.
Exactly.
Norman McLean.
Yeah, exactly. And so
Yeah.
it's like trying to emphasize that piece of it anyway, just to get a little more specific and geeky about it, and not too romantic. And if there's such a thing. But
Cool. How you feeling?
Can you sing that song, please? Is that too much time?
no,
Should we sing it? Should we sing it? Okay.
it's
If you don't mind.
the problem is that it's like we'll just do those two. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care. I can do this all night, man. Yes. The problem is it sounds a lot like 62 Richmond. So that's all right. Yeah, man. I mean, that's music's job. Like, music's job is to bring people together. That's like the whole point of it. It's like there's no other reason to do it. It's not like just about like getting a pat on the back. It's like when you sell a ticket and more than one, and there's two people in a room. It's like for the same reason. It's like remarkable. Well, I mean, that's great.
There's
But
a lot of
the
empty
better,
seats.
the better part of it is that you're here to like hang out with each other. That you still care about each other. That's like the better part of it. Like, I don't know. Like, I come here anytime you guys want me. It's not
Okay.
gonna be special unless
You said it. It's recorded.
Yeah.
It's official. There's a lot of empty seats in the room for people who would have moved mountains to be here, but there was just things that could not happen. And I know Tessa. I know you would have moved mountains. And I know you can't be here. I can't even say their names.
It's okay. I'm gonna see Tom. I'll send his ear regards. I'm getting him into a festival that's sold out in Saskatchewan next week. We're playing, and he's gonna come hang.
Okay, I'm good. I breathed it off. Whew, dodged that one almost.
Okay, I'll try it here. It's called Big Smoke. Blinded by the city lights, no one can see you stalling. It's been so long since you've seen the prairie stars, you're not sure you can recall them. There's something here for you to find. You may have found it once and lost it now. We used to fly through the woods on the backs of quarter horses, picking dandelion bouquets for our sister and our mother. We felt like men, but we were boys, too young to know that we were free as fire. You're lost out in the big smoke, looking for a way home. There are no straight paths, no easy way. Brother, do you remember that warm September morning? We were shooting cans with Dad's 22 without a worry or a warning. You pulled the trigger down and dropped that deer, and you looked at me with tears in your eyes. No, I never in a million years thought that you'd make that shot, and I'll wait for you tonight with your sights still on something so far off. Wherever you are, I hope you're being careful about the things you think you want. You're lost out in the big smoke, without a fire of your own. There are no straight paths, there's no easy way. But our cows are fed and the bins are full, and we're hoping to see you before the snow. Lost out in the big smoke, without a fire your own. There are no straight paths, there's no easy way.
Thanks for asking me to play that one. It's a joy to play. Like I play it. I think I play it at every show, every time. Yeah. Thanks.
Wicked, man. All right. The gratitude's all on this side. Okay. I think that's a good place to shut it down. We have yeah, let's open it up. Yeah. Okay, I'm done. My role here is done.
Open her up.
So there's one character that you sing about in a number of your songs. I wonder if this is someone that's like close to you, or if it's just the main
Archetype, yeah.
Katie Sparrow.
Yes, yes.
Who's Katie Sparrow?
What's with all the birds? Black crows.
Yeah. Okay. Haven't thought about Katie Sparrow in a while. I mean, think about her all the time. So, this is a bit on the woo-woo side of shit, but my dad literally wooed. Bloom in the pants. Yeah, my dad and I. But as much as we could figure out, as much as we could understand it, we had the same dream on the same night about the same character. It's Katie Sparrow. And he called me and was like, he would say something that happened in his dream, and then I would tell him what happened next. And then he would tell me what happened next, right? And then one of us Googled it, and he's like, I have this memory of the Sparrows. The Sparrows were a famous family in Carberry, where my family settled in Manitoba. And I've been obsessed with writing about single moms and just like the battle that they have in the world, and then also picturing it like 100 years earlier on the frontier of the West, thinking about what it would have been like to lose a husband. And then we end up finding a little bit of evidence that told us that the story actually happened, or some version of it. So it's like really hard to ignore. And like, where did we both get it from on that particular time? It's like, it's borderline embarrassing to say out loud because it seems so unbelievable. But yeah, like, and the archetype of her is it's in so many of my songs. Like it's a lot of Who the Waitress Is. I don't know if you know that song.
What? What's that song?
It's a lot of who, like, Louise is another character. It's a lot of the mother-in-law character, and Bulls is sort of her as well. And like trying to like write about that person in society, because like she's everywhere, and it's like it's the archetype that I'm like the biggest friend with and like constantly thinking about. And so like, yeah, it's a great question, man. No one, I don't think anyone's ever asked me about Katie Sparrow, but on that record, that's my mom and my dad singing with me too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're singing harmonies in the studio there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh, it's my ex-girlfriend Dean. Her and I are super good buds still, and she was already my ex-girlfriend when she sang on that. Yeah, she's this lovely, tiny little half Thai, half French Canadian girl, and just like she's just like this big, and she's cool. She's just like always got it, and she was like my Emmylou Harris forever. I just like wanted to sing with her, and then she like started a family and got married and became a teacher, and it was just like still get her to sing once in a while, but it's just like she doesn't really have the time to do it. So yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah,
Absolutely.
lot.
One of my favorite songs of choreography is Living with a Long Way to Go.
Oh, nice.
And
Thanks.
I wonder, was that more about your own ambitions at the time? Was it more of a storytelling from a second person perspective?
Yeah, it's the latter. I met this guy in Saskatchewan who, it was right at the time when like Neil Young went on Q and like basically like just hated on Fort Mac, and I got a lot of criticisms for Fort Mac. Don't get me wrong, I've been there lots, but it like this one particular guy in Saskatchewan like saved his family farm from working in the oil patch, and I was like, I can't really ignore the fact that some good comes out of this place, and it's not the prettiest place, but it's like a place that a lot of people needed just to get by, and I mean Newfoundlanders understand that, and
Dal, you're singing to the choir here.
yeah, man, no, I know.
I don't know if you knew that Fort Mac is actually the capital of Newfoundland.
I know.
Yeah,
No,
I've been saying that
fully
forever.
aware.
It's the biggest city on the island.
I spend a lot of time in Alberta, and I get to meet Newfoundlanders there, and a lot of them come to my shows down there, and so yeah, like I was just trying to tell that story, and not just to sweep it under the rug as this place that somehow could be dismantled, or that wasn't helping a bunch of like pretty much every kid from my high school class worked in Fort Mac. Like it's the same if you're in Manitoba. There is no jobs.
Same.
And like they buy houses and pay school taxes, and I mean it's like it's hard to ignore the fact that place has given them like a decent life. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, all of my buddies from this town are like, they've been messaging me all week, like, man, I'm so sorry. They're stuck working away. You know,
Totally.
That's why I grew up in Ontario. Like
This is like the perfect crowd. This is mint. There's no worries there.
It is the perfect crowd. You guys are. The only thing that's not perfect is that we're missing those hands. That,
Yeah, of course.
I can't even say their names now. I still can't do it. If I say the names, I'm gonna fucking burst. So, I love you, Liam, Tom, Colin. There, Nick. You should be here tonight, but I saw you last night. Button. Oh my God. All right. If I haven't mentioned, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm an asshole. I just haven't slept in a long time, and I'm spacing. But okay. Yeah, I'm not going back to my 5-hour energy days. Those days are gone. They're behind me. I hear there are some good
Yesterday.
some herbal remedies for this.
Can you believe that was yesterday?
No. Nah, man. How long you been here? You been here for a couple of weeks?
Yesterday we lived 8 lives. We like he picked me up at the airport. We managed to like get my salmon tag, and we like just smoked it to the river. I got to see a little bit of the river. Got dark. We were there for like half an hour maybe, and we got up at like 4. Left here at 4:30. Hit the river for a couple hours. I guess it was more than a couple hours really.
Yeah, we were there. It was a good round.
Left at 8 or something.
Yeah, it's a long commute. Like we had to beat it up the river there for a good
Then
hour.
drove to Port-au-Port and played a show, and I was like,
And we installed 2 fridges, not just fridges, stoves, sinks.
yeah, it was just like it was the most epic day ever.
This man, so I was telling him when I met him driving back from the airport, it's like one of the saddest things that I see is that when someone goes salmon fishing, they hook a salmon on their first day. It's like, that sucks, man. Because you'll never know. Like, if you may not stick with it now, and if you stick with it, you'll get it. If you stick with it for 3, 4, 5 years, a decade, then you'll know. You'll know what salmon fishing is. But if you catch a fish on your first day, you'll never know what salmon fishing is. You know what I mean? Like, unless you stick with it, because you will go through the dry spells. And I was like, so the saddest thing to me would be for you to hook a salmon on the first day, but it would also crush me if you never got one. And it was perfect. It was perfect. You were so competent. Like, I'm going to say it. You know, I'm going to lean into it. Nobody can keep up with me on that river. Now, like, I wasn't bussing or nothing.
No.
But nobody can keep up with me on that river when it comes to moving, not catching fish. I'm very, like, there's so many people that are better fishermen than me. But when it comes to moving on main rivers particularly, I know that river like the fucking back of my hand. It's a sidewalk and I can move it. But so I was so stoked that you can move on that river because I can't wait now to take you to the hard spots. Anyway, so it showed me that you're a very competent fisherman, and then like I didn't have to coach you on like the mechanics of how a salmon river works. It was just like showed you one thing, and you started moving down the river, and the most perfect situation happened. You hooked a salmon, but you didn't land it. So now there's unfinished business. That's exactly what I wanted. But who hooks a salmon on their first day? This guy's a competent fucking fisherman, man.
I
He
love the misery of the outdoors, man. I love the misery. I get off on it.
knows
It's
that type
like,
2,
it's
that
like-
type 3, type 4 fun.
If you had to look at the ratio, it's probably 1 to 15 for how often you go, for how often you hook into them. And then the way it works is you hook into 5 in one day,
Yeah.
and then you'll go another 4.
Like the perspective is that like I love to hunt and I hunt with a bow, and it's bow hunting is like basically doesn't happen most of the time. It's like it's hard. Yeah. And like the more time you put in, the higher your odds get. But like all of that time you spend, it's the same as music. It's like just to try to bring it home. It's like any pursuit in the creative field or like writing, it's like you throw away a lot of stuff, but all of those things inform your next cast. All of those things inform your next step. And the saddest part was that was like one of the of when I hooked that fish was like I thought I was mature enough as an angler to stay focused through the lane. I thought there would be a fish, because like when you fish a lot, you start seeing seams and you're like, I think that's where a fish would be. Like you see like a soft spot in front of a rock. Different species have different favorite spots, and I don't know Atlantic salmon at all, but you still know fish, and like I saw my line land and it swung, and I was like yeah, and then I just like lost focus, and then I like grabbed my rod, like held onto it a little bit tighter, and I was like, oh yeah, this is where I think the fish is gonna hit. Boom, hits. And I was like, I wasn't ready. It's like full user error, man.
Nah, man. I
ended up hooking him and fighting him for like a hot minute, but
I think the video is 22 seconds.
also that's a minute.
It is, yeah.
That's a
To
minute
be
in
fair, I
my
can't
world.
give him all. Like, so what happened was there's the fish ran to him, and then so there's a lot of slack, and I was like, you got to take in the slack, and then right when he kind of like I got that through, I was like, okay, taking the slack, he tightened the line, and fish jumped. I was like, fuck. Yeah. So that was probably my bad, but
Also, yeah, the no bow thing. I've never bowed to a fish. That's an Atlantic salmon thing. I've read about it.
big time. You can throw rolls at fish if you're real good. Yeah. So I always say, like, you can tell a lot about a person by the way they fish, and like I can look down river. Sometimes I'll sit on a rock and watch a guy cast, and I'll just know if you're gonna hook or not, because like you can see the patience. Like, this person's not like. So there's two things. Like, if you're new to the river and you watch somebody fish, they're gonna fish each seam, give every seam the credit it deserves. They're gonna start here, and they're gonna move here. They're gonna move here. They're gonna move here. They're not gonna just like here. Okay, nothing there. Here. You know what I mean? Like, they're systematic.
or just,
even though there's something they want there, they have to systematically work towards it. Yeah. And yeah, man, it's just like there's a really strong humility you need to take on to be an effective salmon fisherman. And
I'm sure.
it was really beautiful to watch. So you just like jump right. So there's that, and then there's another thing. I was like, this guy fishes a lot. He fishes a lot of different species. Like, salmon fishing tends to be dogmatic and religious, and like people who fish salmon, it's like they only want to fish salmon. Like, they don't even look at brook trout the same. That happens. There's a population that does that, and that's sad. But so I was a little bit worried that you would treat salmon like a certain way, like as if they're any other fish. And I'm not trying to put them on a pedestal. Brook trout are my favorite, but salmon are very, very special. I've always said that they're holy grail. But one thing that like really showed that your character was that after that fish was gone, your hands were shaking. And I was like,
man,
he gets
I could
it.
barely stand
he fucking
up, man.
gets it.
I was like, legs were like, I was like, cause like, I toured a lot in the early days solo, and I fished everywhere, and I fished like fishing water that isn't yours is fucking hard. Like, you're just like in a different place. There's different bugs, especially fly fishing. Like, there's just different like situations, and you have to like resign yourself to the idea that like you might figure it out. You might have a wicked day. Like, I had a day on the famous Gallatin River in Montana where I figured it out. I caught every fish in every spot. But I've had like multiple days where I would get skunked, and there'd be competent anglers everywhere. It's like I don't have anybody there with me telling me what to do. You don't know. You're just like you barely even have the puzzle pieces. You just have like you know there is a puzzle, and you can't figure it out. And so like I was completely okay with not even getting to see a fish or move a fish. I was like, I'm happy to like start this relationship, because that's what it is. Like, with any outdoor place, you're like, okay, And then when you do encounter it, you have this bank of knowledge that may be useful, may be also completely
and then it's all
useless.
chance. Yeah, that's right.
So it's cool. It's like
Yeah.
I love that.
You got
that
the right
relationship to like Mother Earth, where you're just like,
Hell yeah.
it's kind of up to you, but like it's not like I know nothing. You know, it's like you get to stand up. I know how to wade. There's like a bunch of things where you don't have to learn. You don't have to be frustrated. Like I managed my line well, like all that stuff. I was like, yeah, and I hadn't casted flare out in months, but it was just like it was great. I was proud of myself for being there and like being able to do it.
Hell
Like,
yeah.
seriously proud of myself, and but not done yet, buddy.
Hell yeah, man. We got, 3-4 more days.
Yeah.
Sick. Okay. Any more questions from the crowd? Anything anybody want to say before we start drinking some rum and eating some foolish food? Okay, we're gonna have a little pause, and I'm gonna get prepared for the next ceremony. So, right on. Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you, Dell.